As many as 98 out of every 100 people who land on your website leave without a trace. No name, no email, no way to ever reach them again. But the thing is, they didn't land on your site by accident. They've most likely got a problem you can solve. You just didn't meet them where they are in their buying cycle. There's one glaring gap most businesses overlook that changes that, and I'll show you what it is. But first, let me tell you about James. James is a heating engineer, and I feature him in my book Lemonade Plan. You might just see a bit of yourself in him. James had done the hard work on the client side of his work. He got his packages clear, his processes tidy, the kind of follow-up that runs without him having to chase it. And his last job had even brought in a referral. But every morning when he opened his inbox, it told a different story. People asking for cheap boiler quotes or requests to match another provider's price. About 15 to 20 enquiries a week, and most of them just chasing the lowest bid, the sort who'd leave him the moment somebody cheaper came along. And he couldn't quite work it out. Plenty of visitors to his site, everything he delivered systemised. So why were the inquiries still so poor, and so few of them any good? He decided he must have a leads problem, that he simply needed more of them coming in. And in a way he was right, it was a leads problem. He was just wrong that the fix was more of them. By the end of this, you'll see what was really costing him. Now, before we get into how James fixed it, let me show you where this sits, because it's the last piece of something we've been building. If you followed this series, you'll know I like to picture a business as a mountain, the peak profit paradigm, with three sides to it: automations, leads, and pipeline, or ALP for short. We've already marked out the path up that mountain, which is your pipeline, and we've hung the automations along it that keep people warm while they're making their minds up. And today, we're on that third side, leads, which is about how people get onto the mountain in the first place. And that's exactly where James was stuck, because the people turning up at the bottom of his mountain didn't all want the same thing from him. Now, before we go any further, it's worth being clear about what we even mean by a lead, because it's one of those words that gets thrown around to mean all sorts of things. A lead isn't simply everyone who lands on your website. You might remember in the pipeline episode, I lined up 4 words: suspect, lead, prospect, and client. And they each mean something quite specific. A suspect is someone who's heard of you, maybe follows you somewhere, but hasn't done anything yet. A lead has taken that first real step toward you and left you a way to get back in touch, like a name, an email, or perhaps a phone number. And a prospect has gone a step further again and started talking about working with you. So when I talk about capture, what I mean is the step from suspect to lead. The moment a stranger becomes a lead, someone you can follow up with, rather than a visitor you'll never hear from again. So let's come back to that figure for a second, because James's coach Sarah was the one who put her finger on it for him. Fewer than 2 people in every 100 who come looking are ready to buy right now. And the rest? Well, they're not time wasters at all. They're not on your site because they've got nothing better to do. They're just earlier in the process than the people you tend to notice. The trouble was, James's website only ever spoke to that ready-to-buy handful, with "get a quote" plastered across every page. So the other 98 would take one look, see nothing there for where they were, and simply drift off. So the real question was never how to get more people to the site, because James already had plenty of traffic. The question was, what on earth was happening to all those other 98 once they arrived? And the answer is that they're not all after the same thing. James did something quite simple here. He sat down and Googled his own trade, just to see what people were typing in. And the searchers told the story. Someone typing in boiler running costs is only just starting to look. Someone asking which boiler's the most reliable is a bit further on, weighing up the options. and someone searching "get a boiler quote near me," well, they're ready to go. So that's 3 different people asking 3 quite different questions. The marketing books have names for these: top, middle and bottom of the funnel, or tofu, mofu and bofu if you want the jargon. But you can learn the words and then forget them, because in plain English it's just researching, comparing and ready. The one who's still researching doesn't want a quote at all. They want to understand. And here's that thing I promised you, the one most businesses overlook. They send all 3 of these people to the very same get a quote page, and so they only ever answer the question that one of them was asking. Other niches might have just a book an appointment button. Again, the same problem. You're asking too early. So, 3 people, 3 different needs. If working out what to put in front of each of them sounds like hard work, that's exactly the kind of thing I help people with. You can start a WhatsApp chat with me over at askgareth.com, but do stick with me, because what James did from here is the part that changes everything. So here's what James did. Up to now, his website had given everyone the very same way in, that one get a quote page, and it only ever suited the handful who were ready. So instead he built 3 different gates, one for each of those 3 types of people. For the researcher, he started by writing a guide. He called this first one simply Choosing Your New Boiler. Properly helpful, no hard sell, and all they do to get it is leave a name and an email. For the one comparing options, he put together a running cost calculator where they pop their details in to see the result. And for the person who's ready, he took that old get a quote and turned it into book your survey and consultation. Same intention underneath, but it signals that he's the thorough one here, not the cheapest. Now here's the part that matters, and it's where the last episode comes back into play. Each of those gates isn't just a form sitting on a page, it's a trigger. The guide kicks off that one follow-up sequence, the calculator kicks off another, and the booking starts a different one again. In other words, the gate someone chooses to walk through tells your automations exactly how to treat them from there. And that's the missing link, because capture was never about collecting an email address. It's about getting the right person onto the right path. Now a quick word of warning here, because more leads isn't the goal. More of the right leads is. Think back to James's inbox, full of those price shoppers. That wasn't just bad luck. His old site for years had been shouting, lowest price guarantee. So of course it pulled in exactly the people who drop him the moment somebody undercut him by a few pounds. The gate you build is what decides who walks through it once. It welcomes in the people you want, and it gently puts off the ones you don't before they've even filled in a form. Take that guide that explains why a proper installation costs what it does. The bargain hunter takes one look and clicks away. And that's a good thing, because it's a meeting you've just saved yourself from sitting through. So the best kind of capture doesn't only collect leads, it sorts them for you as it goes. So where should you start with all this? Well, not by tearing your whole website apart, that's for sure. If you've got messages like get a quote plastered on every menu as your main call to action, then that might be where to start. For James, one realisation did most of the heavy lifting. He was missing that very first gate completely. Everything on his site pointed at ready to buy, and there was nothing at all for those who weren't there yet. Remember that only around 2% are. So that's the one to build first, the early stage guide, the thing the researcher's looking for, with one simple follow-up sitting behind it. And do you remember how James was so sure he just needed more leads? Well, he never did. The day he built those gates, the price shoppers started to thin out and the right sort of enquiries began arriving already warm. Same traffic as before, just different gates. 3 gates is the finished picture. So that's leads. We marked out the path, which was the pipeline. We hung the automations along it that keep people warm. And today we've built the gates, that get the right people onto that path in the first place. 3 sides of the mountain, all working together as one system. But of course, a system like that still needs feeding. And right now, James is relying on the odd Google search and a stack of house drop leaflets to be found at all. So that's where we'll go next time, for the finale. How the right people come to find you in the first place, the awareness side of things. And that one's not about software at all. It's about the message that makes someone want to become a lead. So if you'd like to stop losing good leads at the gate, that's the episode to watch next. I'll see you there.